someone who would say the world is spherical. I'm quite happy to accept that. But on the show, I talk to people from all sorts of different backgrounds, putting forward lots of different ideas that are not mainstream, and we just try and have a chat about it. I'm not someone who likes to be the sort of aggressive, shouting, you're wrong type. I want to know what you think. We'll just have a bit of a chat, really, as much as anything else.
Sure. I just looked at your site earlier on. I was quite impressed. You're very clued. You've got some great topics, alternative health, etc. I was quite impressed.
I like to sort of look pretty broadly and see what's going on.
With the flat Earth, it is a broad spectrum subject. Also, we look into all of these fields of alternative health.
I actually saw you speak at the Flat Earth Convention UK.
Right, this did look familiar. I was wondering. No, I see you, Michael. I did see you. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Nice.
Awesome. So I think we'll try and go for about 40 minutes, something like that. I don't edit the show because obviously if this is a conversation where I'm on one side or the other, the last thing I want is for someone I've been talking to think that I've deleted a bit that they've said to make me look better or something like that. I've got no interest in doing that. It's just whatever the conversation is, it is really.
Yeah, I can see that. That's fine. That's excellent. I've had some really crummy interviews in the past.
I can imagine people
there just to be annihilated, but it never ever works out that way.
Yeah, it's not the. I don't like any of this style of a debate where it's like trying to own the other person and show them they're wrong.
I don't.
We're adults. Have a chat,
I don't do it. I'm welcome to hear anybody's other side if they, but working on what is apparently the scientific model, which is something that they're not really doing. We'll touch upon that if you like in a minute. But
all right, perfect. Well, we'll get started if you're all right then.
Yeah, man. I'm safe. Thanks.
Joining today on Be Reasonable is Martin Leaker. Martin, welcome to Be Reasonable.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Thanks for inviting me. Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
So, Martin, you run Flat Earth British. How did you come to believe in the Flat Earth? How did you find your way to Flat Earth belief, and what got you there, do you think?
Well, I think it was easier for me than most, if I'm honest, the transition. I was well on the way there when I discovered it in probably early 2015. The first time I actually heard of it was in 2014 on Coast to Coast radio show with one of the Flat Earthers, Morgile. But they talked of it as an enclosed system, and they stayed away from the entire subject of Flat Earth. So that intrigued me. But I was well on the way there. I had decided that, all of these Victorian theories that they're teaching in schools as facts when they're actually theories, such as evolution and other insane theories. I discounted all of them early on, but I've been into sort of, I wouldn't say conspiracy theories. I would say that that's something they call it. I would say that I have a discerning mind, very questioning, and whatever's presented to me, I'm going to question. I'm not going to take everything presented to me with a pinch of salt. I realize that, that the masses, the people, are given very limited information, and the truth be known, well, none of us are told the actual truth. They're not going to tell the people the truth of this place. They can't. They won't. They know. The higher up you go in their positions, they tell them, this is the game. Knowledge and information is the game.
Okay, I mean, we're going to go into the detail of some of that in a little bit, but so you say you were already sort of primed to look at this.
Sure.
What did you come across that made you think, actually, this is why I reject the spherical Earth?
Well, funny enough, Max Sargent, who I don't know whether you know him, and he's an American gentleman.
We interviewed him. I interviewed him in 2015, I think, on this show, something like that. Yeah.
Well, they've all become to be my friends since. But as soon as I seen the clues, it was put in a sort of format that was very simple to understand and really, really dug deep. It got you really thinking. And then I started to watch the usual sort of Eric Dubé. I'm sure you've heard of Eric Dubé. And within no time at all, I started to think to myself, actually, I had like a voice in my head saying, if you watch this pass you by, you're going to regret it till the day you die. And for some inexplicable reason, I hit YouTube and started posting, not knowing what the hell I was doing, but wanting to say my piece, wanting to find out the truth. At that stage, I had decided that, it's observably flat. I haven't actually been to space. I really don't trust these images. And then then they started to come, and then it started to unfold that everything that was presented was tainted. It was easy for my eyes to see that we were being lied to, and there was a bigger deception going on. Easy to pinpoint, but I just call them controllers. The way I see life, the way I see this, maybe not the same for most, is we're controlled from the day we come out of our mothers. As soon as they can get you away, you put it into an indoctrination system, which they call the education system, which, as I told you just now, teaches you theories as facts from the off. Gravity, evolutionary theory, big lizards that roamed the earth for hundreds of millions of years. All of these theories are pumped into children as soon as their developing mind is coming on, when they're at that stage. So so it's control, it's brainwashing, it's mind control. So the fact that they got it to the point that if flat Earth is actually brought up in a conversation, there's a knee-jerk response. Cognitive dissonance kicks in, and the people will literally repel. I have this on a daily basis. It's something deep-setting within people where they do not want to question the given model, which is the heliocentric model. Is the fact that we're on a watery ball that's apparently spinning 1,000 miles at the equator. But when you pull this apart, you actually think about it. You think, oh, well, hang on a minute, where can we start here? Well, there's the curvature, isn't there? And then you find there's an alternative reason for why things apparently dip away over the said horizon, which is a perspective issue. You look into this, there's a completely reasonable and real explanation for what's going on. Okay, I thought to myself, well, so trying to count off, debunk it, I suppose I was doing, and trying to count off the anomalies which the heliocentricists will push.
So when you say you trying to debunk it, do you mean debunking heliocentrism or flat Earth?
Actually, both, if I'm honest with you. I was trying to prove to myself that I was right, because the debate is close with me, Michael. It has been for a few years now. I've completely changed my field on YouTube. I'm into alternative history. But at the time, I wanted to make sure in my mind, okay, because this is quite a big jump, isn't it, to move away from that sort of thinking, because it is really deep sense sitting in your psyche and in your primal being. What they're doing is they're telling you you're on a spinning ball. So you got to think, all right, this spinning ball 1,000 miles an hour with water stuck to it, okay. And then there's the anomaly of we got an atmosphere, and apparently outside the atmosphere, they thought up the worst environment imaginable, a vacuum. Now you've got a pressure system next to a vacuum with no separating barrier, completely against the second law of thermodynamics, which they conveniently forget. You need a container for separating gases, otherwise they're just going to disperse into one another.
Well, that's true in a sort of a balanced system, but obviously if you can but the mainstream view, just put forward the mainstream view would be that obviously the mass of the Earth is sufficient enough to have a gravitational pull, and that effectively it acts as a barrier, as things can't escape, or it's much harder for things to get further away. So the further away you are from the Earth, the less gravity is. That would be the mainstream sort of counter to that, I guess.
Gravity is not really needed. If you go into the origins of where they sort of get their idea for gravity, with the Cavitous experiment in a shed where two balls attract one another over a distance observed by Cavendish, this proves the mass attracts mass, which gives this idea to these in the bombardment period of the formation of our universe, the dust particles are coalesced into this spinning ball, it cooled down the crust, etc., etc. Now, gravity, out of all of the forces, is by far, below the radioactive forces and the electromagnetic forces. This thing barely exists anyway. Now,
it's incredibly weak.
Yeah, incredibly weak. Yet, this is a very selective force. It's gentle enough that dust can fly off of a shred of wheat, or a gnat can take off. Yet it's strong enough to hold trillion tons of motion to a spinning ball at 1,000 miles an hour. But it's not just 1,000 miles an hour, it's 63,000 miles around the sun, and it's 93 million. It just goes on exponentially to 500,000 miles an hour around the galactic core. I mean, speeds you can't even imagine you're doing right now. They tell you when you watch a sun setting, you're actually falling backwards at twice the speed of sound. Now, when you sit and have a real good think about that, you think, well, am I going to be able to prove this? Am I going to be able to use the scientific model, what they're supposed to be using, to prove this? Now, the scientific model is experimentation and repeating this to prove it. Well, they're not doing this, you see. They're not doing this at all. They're sticking with old Victorian values that they're not willing to move from. And if you're in this clique of academia, anybody who does know outside of the box what's going on, they won't get on very far in their field. They will be suppressed. Many people have spoken out in the past, the likes of great academics like Emanuel Velosovsky in the 50s. He spoke up. His career was trashed for speaking up. You're not popular if you speak out of this set narrative set by certain controllers of how this place works. And
well, that's true, but I mean, I guess so. One of the things that I find a little tricky with some of this, I guess, is that there's one of two possibilities, and one is that there is a great truth that is being in a particular field is either being suppressed or not being centrally questioned, and the great truth is actually what the individual maverick might think, and the rest of the field are ignoring that, and that's obviously a terrible situation if that's the case. The flip side is that the maverick is asking questions that have been comprehensively answered for the rest of people in that field, and so the reason that maverick is expelled or discredited is because the ideas are discredited. For example, if you were an electrical engineer and you said, actually, I think a resistor should go at this part of the circuit board, and everyone else in electrical engineering went, hang on, that's a really stupid place to put a resistor, we wouldn't put that there, it wouldn't work.
I like it.
That person could say, well, I'm a maverick, and big electrical engineering is rejecting my theories because they don't question the fundamental principles of their field. But it's just because what they're saying doesn't work through all of the bulk of experimental work that's been done prior to them. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard. How do you distinguish between one of those and the other of those?
God knows. That's a good one. No, for me, it's a grander deception. For me, it's our past, our history, our chronology, everything that has been presented to us. The history books for definite. Religion is control. I see that as control. I see everything that is presented needs to be scrutinized, needs to be questioned. And I've got to be honest, Michael, everything that I've dug into, every field, I almost instantly find a problem. And then when I dig deeper, I find great big gaps and anomalies and cover-ups. So what is the real picture? So that is what I've been digging into, and as far as I can make out.
And by digging into, what constitutes digging into? What do you do in order to research these things? How do you go about that?
If you follow my channel, I have quite a few people in my team, I suppose you could call it. Flat Earth British is not me, it's my audience. I'm Martin Liedtke. I have another channel, Lee Mowat, Flat Earth British subscriber channel, who set up with me as well pretty recently, over a year ago, and a load of spin-off channels. So we've opened up an alternative field, which is getting really, really popular on the internet, by the way, and it's all under the cloud or the umbrella of Flat Earth. But it's an alternative field question, because to me, I can't keep going on about pulling NASA videos for harnesses or augmented reality, or like this week. Not Michael, use your discerning mind, mate, right? Vacuum of space station this week. NASA say that an astronaut's outside doing an EVA, he spots a small hole in said side of ISS, and he instantly has the thought, oh, well, I'll just stick my finger in the hole. Now, do you think that's a reality, that an astronaut in the vacuum of space, dropping away from the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour, feels no inertia, feels nothing, and apparently he's got this vision of the Dutch boy with the dam, he puts his finger in a hole, he doesn't think about this meteorite or this micrometeorite impact ripping through the other side of the space station, which it would, by the way, killing everyone in reality. And then they go with that and they put it all over the world media and everyone runs with it like a reality. Now, to my mind,
so this
comedic. They're just, it's duper's delight. To me, Now, I give up with NASA. I can't even watch it. But anyone watching this stuff and believing it, well, good luck to you, because you're believing in CGI cartoons and anything knocked up on a computer screen. You can't tell the difference between one or the other. Well, you need to have a sit and think in a dark room. That's the way I see it. So the
sure, but on that particular NASA question, I think that raises something that's quite useful to dig into. So you're saying that NASA put that out, and that this is a fiction that never happened.
Yeah.
But it would seem strange then that they would put that out for two reasons. One would be that it serves no practical purpose. You say it's in the news all around the world, but there's not really a good necessary reason to do that. But two being, for a story that you could look at and on face dismiss as being patently ridiculous, it seems odd then that everybody involved in NASA wouldn't see that all and go, oh, this can't be a plausible story.
No, it's perfect. It's called the perfect Hegelian dialectic. They're playing both sides of the coin. They want you to think this stuff. It's called duper's delight. The people at the top are pure psychopaths. They really are, my friend. And they literally put these video out, I believe, to people to pull apart. They'll put deliberate errors in. And God, we've found thousands of deliberate errors. So to us, we think they're doing it on purpose. For duper's delight, or part of the dialectic, so that the sleeping masses will see it, their psyche will see it, their subconscious will certainly see it, but an inner deniability will go on. And this is what's happening. It's them playing with people, playing with the masses. And
who is them? Who would you say is the them?
The controller. I don't put a name. How could I possibly know who's at the very top? They would be surely clandestine. You know,
sure, I mean, I don't want his driver's license number or anything. I just mean, like, who are the group kind of thing?
I couldn't know. I couldn't know. I really couldn't know. I wouldn't even say they were one race or another race or a religion. You know, I'm not going to. I know that a lot of the world's problems could be sort of all roads lead to Rome, but I wouldn't pinpoint them as the final card. I think that there's darker entities than them above them. I say entities.
Does that concern you at all? Or that specifically concern you that you ascribe these actions and motivations and master plans to a body that you can't describe in any way other than them? That you can't, it's not like. When it comes to scrutinising your own ideas, is there ever a point where you go, okay, for this to be the case, I should probably look at whether the they could actually exist, or could there be another answer?
I do, and with these people I'm working with on my YouTube channel, we are actually live and real time, because we do real life investigations. We crank up live. We have different people bringing in evidences. We scrutinise them. I mean, we look for sources deep. My speciality at the moment is I'm basically deciphering Middle Ages texts. Middle Ages up until the 1700s, 1800s text is what I'm doing, to try and find codes to and deciphering to how this place works. And it is definitely decoded, deeply decoded, and it would seem that the controllers know exactly how this place works, and it is definitely encoded as being flat. Now,
what do you mean by deciphering and decoded? So what are you finding, and how are you verifying that it's there and it isn't, anomaly hunting pattern?
It is a highly complex subject. We find specific atlases and sources that we can almost trust, that will show an alternative history other than what they tell you in the history books you were taught in school. They do not fit whatsoever, and what they show is quite alarming. Now, the atlases, the specific catalogue of atlases that I've been looking into, and other people have been, we can verify them. We know exactly where they were, we know exactly when they were published, and we know exactly their origin, and they are very rare. Many people have sought these atlases. Very famous library people who run libraries in New York, in the Metropolitan Library, there was a curator in there, was studying these things. He knew the value of them. So I know what I'm looking into, and what they propose is an alternative history can fit in with nothing. There's similarities in peoples and styles and fashions, but it fits with nothing that they teach us. It seems that this heliocentric model has been brought in around the Enlightenment period, the 1500s, a bit later maybe. The times are a bit skewed. There's been calendar shifts. The Juliana and Gregorian calendar shifts and the later Common Era shift, and then it came into the 1800s. They introduced the railway times, and then there was a later shift with Greenwich, and they just keep shifting the times. So they're skewed terrible. We're not in one year or the other, so you can't really call it 2018 at all. So
I mean, obviously 2018 just is arbitrary anyway, but it's useful to have an arbitrary measure of time since an initial point.
So I went a bit deeper. We're trying to find out exactly what you're saying, Michael. Who would permeate such a lie, and what would be the benefits? What would be the benefits? Well, I think the benefits are much more than you could ever imagine, Michael. I think that they are petrified that humanity will wake up to its true purpose on this realm, in this place. I believe that we are much more than they tell us. I believe that we are the creators of this place. I believe that it's through intent, our emotions, our belief, and our positivity that create our realm. Okay. Now these people, they want to.
Oh, sorry. What do you mean by that? Could you just clarify what you mean by our intent and positivity creates the realm?
If you want to look it into it, they would put it into quantum mechanics terms. If you understand quantum mechanics, everything is a wave function that collapse into a solid world that you can see. Okay. Before. And you're the conduit to make the wave function collapse. This is how quantum mechanics, and this is how science approaches the subject.
I'm interested as to why you trust quantum mechanics when there's vast swathes of science you don't trust.
No, I don't. This is what I was just getting to. I don't. This is how they would approach the subject. Okay. Now, it is a one way of explaining it, but I think there's something completely different going on. I think that intent, positive intent, as in you visualizing in your mind without any doubt of a certain event unfolding, but not the event unfolding itself, post-event, after, as if it's already happened. Okay. And lo and behold, if it's done, you're in truth and you're a good person, you're pure at heart, the universe, it will unfold. And literally mountains can be moved. Now, they use this. They know the nature of reality. The high up, say, Freemasons are the people in control of the system. They know how this place works. Now, they keep us on a lower body vibration, okay? They keep us down with bum news articles, fear porn of being taken out from something, from space, or a nuclear war, or aliens. They'll make up a whole feast of things to keep humanity petrified on the edge of its seat, always worried, always on a lower vibrational buzz, and they'll make sure they work at it. They'll use the food, they'll use the water, they'll use anything to keep you down, so you don't wake up to your true potential in this realm. And then eventually there's an end cause as well. It works out beautifully because you get ill later on from probably the medication they give you for whatever when you can't cope with this place, and then you get to hospital and then they finish you off anyway. Fact. So it's a pretty and this is most of the people out there in Great Britain that live in cities. This is how they're going to be living. They're going to be given very limited information of how this place works. And if they want to believe in heliocentric model, they need to dig in, find out if this is actually true. You know, Michael, we do constant tests. We do constant experiments as flat earthers, and this stuff is never spoken about. It will never be touched upon on the mainstream, ever. Okay, we do laser tests. They're in the Guinness Book of Records. Only 2 days ago, a friend of mine, he photographed Blackpool illuminations, and not only that, the lamppost and the cars on the roads from 20 miles away. Now, the tower was not even supposed to be visible according to their curve calculator. No curvature.
Yeah.
No.
And can you do that every day that isn't cloudy?
No. It's down to atmospheric conditions. It's got to be just right. You know,
you're looking. But that atmospheric conditions is so. My understanding of a conventional view of the curvature of the Earth is that when there are certain atmospheric conditions, it allows for a level of lensing. Yeah. And so, if you can see something all the time, then it would be that.
It's either that or a superior mirage, isn't it? Lensing is not going to lift things to these distances. Anyway, I've seen a lot of lensing. I was 10 years in the Merchant Navy. lensing, that exhibits in a small slither. But no, if you're imagining, if you're looking...
Sorry, what is the extent of lensing then in terms of meters?
I'll just get into it. If you're looking over a large distance of, say, 20 miles, I mean, if you imagine that's a hell of a lot of atmosphere you're looking through. There's particulates, there's water particles. It's like looking through 100 planes of glasses when you get to that point, okay? Now, the rules of perspective are still in play. Remember, things, if you're looking down a railway line, they are parallel tracks, but when you look, you're standing in them railway lines, they will converge and meet at a vanishing point, a convergence point, and anything beyond that convergence point becomes invisible. You won't be able to see it anymore, okay? Now, this is what's happening, apparently, when ships go over the horizon. You get a good enough set of zoom cameras or P900s to a certain extent until it disappears out of that vanishing point. You can bring it back in, okay? Way off of this apparent curve. Now, that's one reason that brought me to the flat Earth in the first place. I was in the Merchant Navy for a decade, okay? My father was a captain, and I've done every job at sea you can imagine. And one thing that kept happening over and over, without any understanding from me, was things too far off. Volcanoes, volcanic islands, things like that. And I would go into the chart room, which, funny enough, they used to use at the time plain trigonometry over spherical, but at the time I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Apparently better for reckoning. So I would check the charts. I would go out to the skipper and I'd say, "Skipper, we're like 100 nautical miles away from this volcano. We've been 3 days out now. Why are we still seeing it?" And they would look at one another and grin and laugh at me. Now, at this, when I was coming into the flat Earth and understanding these subjects, this would play in the back of my mind that day when they were sort of half laughing at me about spotting these islands ridiculous distances away. They're supposed to be literally...
What do you think their grin was? Do you think they didn't believe that you could see those islands, or do you think they knew the reasoning?
No, they knew the reasoning, all right, because the skipper on this one particular ship and the chief engineer that was standing there at the time were both high-up Freemasons. They were. They used to have their regalia on when they came into port in Britain to go out to the Masonic Temple.
And we say high up, how many people do you think would have been at their level of the Freemasons? I'm just trying to gauge how high up you think the skipper was.
Well, he was very involved in the military. He was a sole survivor of a ship being torpedoed in Tilbury Harbour, or one of 2 people. He was quite high up in the merchant maritime, so I suspect maybe 32, but it doesn't go any higher. 33 is an honorary. It's no more information a 33 than a 32. It's exactly the same info.
Yeah, that's the levels of the Freemasons. Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the structure of the Freemasons to know how many people globally might be at a level 32.
Well, I wouldn't even think it was just the Freemasons alone. I think they're very selective on the information. I think the Freemasons are just another arm, possibly controlled. Again, most things seem to have there's like a web, a grid. You can't see it. Okay, I've been feeling this for some time since I've been talking about flat Earth. Like Michael, things, when you talk about this subject, I'll give you an example. I wake up this morning, I check my account, and the first message that comes in is, "I'm going to hunt you down and kill you like a dog." Why?
Blimey.
Because I don't agree with your measurement of your environment. We're talking about a measurement. We're talking about a measurement, an observation of an environment, yet it will drive somebody to threaten you to that level. You don't have to think about that. And this happens every day. Because I disagree that it's a spinning ball, and I don't believe space agencies. I believe they have, with their budgets, enough reason to lie. Definitely enough reason to lie. It's astronomical, billions.
So I think so. I'll pick up on the line question in a second. But when it comes to that aggression from people who disagree with you, I mean, I agree that's certainly something that, well, A, it's awful and it shouldn't be happening. But B, it seems to be a function of the internet. I mean, I get hate mail from time to time. And
I have been very lucky. My channel, the people that come to my channel are the best. I go on a lot of other channels and I check out their comment streams and stuff, and you get a lot of You got a lot of bad-minded people. The trolls come in team-handed. I get that every single day. And the truth be known, Michael, I haven't actually posted about anything to do with space or actually flat Earth outside of flat Earth maps in probably 6 months or so.
Yeah.
As I said, I've moved in. I got, I'm not saying bored. There's enough people doing it. If you go on Google, everyone's pulling apart space industries. I thought, well, no, I'll just specialise on a field that I'm into, and I've always had questions about, which is the historical timeline. My question was, how can the whole world just arrive in around the 1900 period, and everyone's on horseback with no electricity and nothing beforehand?
So how do you mean the world just arrived in the 1900 period?
Apparently the motor car, the aeroplane, and everything arrives around the 1900 mark, doesn't it? Before then, everything's on horseback, isn't it? Horse-driven. We got the train. But, all right, we'll start from 1800. We'll go back from there. Everything, apparently, in our antiquity, as far back as the Bible, is apparently on horseback, bow and arrow driven. Nothing has advanced. It's dribbled along. Middle Ages, we get gunpowder cannon. Everything's just dribbling along, and no seeming advancement. And then suddenly, miraculously, a light bulb has come on humanity's head, and we've managed to build this entire world around us and all of this invention just out of the blue in a 200-year period when we got 2,000 years on our calendar. No.
Funnily enough, isn't that? I wish I could remember the exact quote that I read, but I seem to remember reading a quote from someone about 150 years ago, saying exactly the same thing. That the last 200 years have seen advances beyond anything we've seen in history.
Is that who you're quoting, or is it?
I'm not sure. I've certainly seen. I think it's a sentiment that's been echoed throughout history. You know, the end of the Renaissance was the end of we've discovered all there is to discover. I think, is it not just a function of modernity, whatever period you're in, is to think, well, the last 150 years have been massive, and before that they were savages?
Well, obviously, and there's an element to that, and not every single time around, well, we're here now, there seems to be an obsession with end times. People get, you go on the internet, and that's the biggest search on there, isn't it? The day after 9/11, the biggest search on the internet was, what did Nostradamus say about it all? This is how people are thinking. So there's that element there, but no modernity, not really, Michael. I think there's definitely something bigger. Everyone has been fed a yarn. We are not really being ourselves. If we do get back to being ourselves, it unfolds then. It's an enlightening period. It's difficult to put into words, but once it starts happening, it's like a light bulb comes on in your head. Now, I don't believe the human species woke up at 1800. What I think has happened, Michael, is we were awake all along, and we were advanced in technology all along, okay? And I think what's happened is because we are not here long, 70 years, our information is handed to us by these controllers, utter tosh most of it, atoms of truth, that is all. We're never going to know the truth, and the history always goes to the victors, and they're always going to make themselves look pretty, okay, no matter how ugly it is. So I mean,
we've got archaeological record that would show if we were more technologically advanced
from then. Michael, from them, proposed.
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by them. I mean, a friend of mine is an archaeologist who's digging stuff now.
I could show you stuff now, Michael, on here, if I would be able to say it. It would blow your mind. You would have to sit down. I got stuff I show you to make you shake. You'd wonder why you didn't know this in the school, but why they didn't teach you this in the school books. Our heritage is far much more richer than they could ever have told us. When you dig in, there is alternative. Not ideas, alternative proofs. Okay, there's something else that's been going on. Now, you haven't been here that long, and everything you have been given has been handed to you. Just remember that, okay? It has. You go to the library. Libraries, they're owned by usual oligarchs. Carnegie, my local library, was built by Andrew Carnegie, the same person who built Carnegie Hall. Hired Freemason oligarch of the late 1800s. Yeah, he builds libraries in my city. Now,
does that mean that everything in the library is tainted because of the man who put the bricks down?
No, they're putting an end to the information. This is the way my mind works, Michael, okay? I think that we were really advanced in the past. There was a certain civilization that were taken out by events. I believe there's been a concerted effort to take out evidence of this advanced civilization that's not very far away. All information is handed to us. They tell people they're on a spinning ball, hurtling through the vastness of space, apparently, ever-accelerating universe, dark matter, etc., which is insane, with no proof. No proof. So we're in small pockets of time. We've handed information, and now the libraries have the information, don't they? But unfortunately, they've closed hundreds of libraries in the UK in the last couple of years. And I picked up an article this week says they're closing 700 libraries in the UK over the next 5 years, only leaving them in council hubs, council buildings, selecting rubbish books. Now,
what do you think is the significance of the libraries closing?
I know exactly why. Because all of the information will be available on the internet in PDF form, which can be and will be basically altered from its original context and ideas. Now, it's easy to find out what's going on. I think a very good parable for our times is the book 1984, George Orwell. Exactly the same there. They're working off of a calendar that's been introduced, a time. There's 20. In the first paragraph of 1984, they said the clock tolls 13. So they got 13, not 12. They got that many hours in a day. And their history has been handed to them. They're not even in a place where they think they are. They know nothing of their reality. His job in the book is actually rewriting history. For the Ministry of Truth. One day, everyone believes it, and the day after, and we lost the war with Oceania. Everyone takes it, forgets the day before, and runs with it. This is how sound asleep. Now, to me, that's how it is here. I see it as...
But if that's such an accurate portrayal of the world we're in now, and if the people in charge are shutting libraries in order to keep information out of people's hands, how are you able to read that book? Like, why is 1984 so widely available on every bookshelf in the world it's such a good analogy for a world?
It is. But as I say right now, Blair, okay, he worked for the BBC. He was an intelligence investigator. He worked for intelligence. He was a spy, okay? A lot of them were. Now, what's going on is this man works for a place called the Tavistock Institute. The Tavistock Institute they've been there quite a while, but they started in the First World War. They're propaganda ministry, okay, run by or started by a man called Edward Bernays. Well worth researching. What he does is programming using press, using radio. They started in the First World War, prior to the First World War, poisoning people against the Germans, saying that they were crucifying Belgians and bayoneting babies, and hate against these Bosch. This is the way but nobody.
The propaganda.
Propaganda. So they expanded upon that, and they found out the benefits of it, and they expanded upon it. Social engineering, using bread and circuses, sport, theatre. And they spin a yarn as well, an agenda as well.
But it's weird that we know that stuff about bayoneting babies and crucifying Belgians was intentional propaganda, because you'd think if they were in charge of the release of information, they wouldn't have released the information that it was intentional propaganda, because that's showing their tactics.
Play again. You see, they want to play good cop, bad cop. It's part of their split personality. They created this exact conversation for the dialectic of play. It's perfect. I see it as perfect. I can see exactly what's going on. This is a very socially engineered paradigm we are living in, with very selected information to the masses. It is.
So if I could just stick on that point for just a second, because I think it's quite a useful one.
Yeah.
And I'll just lay this out a little bit. So you have the propaganda during the war, which if they'd never told us about it, we would never have known they had that propaganda tool, or that they were doing this propaganda stuff. Because they did tell us about it, that also plays into their hands. So whether they tell us or whether they don't tell us, either way, it's proof of the overall story, the overall plot, the overall narrative. Is there anything that could therefore falsify that, or would it just be whichever flip a coin, and whichever way it comes up, well, that's proof that the story was right. Whether they tell you or they don't tell you, either way is proof.
Well, that was
it's not a falsifiable story at that point.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying, but that was just the origins, because they expanded upon it and they realised the benefits of the mass media, and whatever is shown on the television now is talked about on the bus on the way to work. It wins people's minds. I've got people in my family talk about Love Island like it's a reality, like it is important. And this is where everybody is. in this sleepy place on the bus, not really awake, but awake, thinking about things presented to them, programming. They even tell you, they're not hiding it. So the social engineering of now is nothing like the programming. You know, even Goebbels took basically lessons from Edward Bernays' text, his books. You know, there's a few out there. Well worth a read. And it shows you how this winning of the minds of the British public came about. And believe you me, most people will believe anything that they're told. Like Nixon said, they won't believe it unless it's on a television. You know that. It's true.
Well, so I think, I would agree that there is a disturbing trend towards disposable culture in society, and that Love Island is an example of that. The popularity of Love Island for being something so disposable isn't necessarily high art or high culture or going to change the world. But I don't think that Love Island has to be part of a grand plot of governmental control for it to be valueless.
Using that one program. Now, to me, all the programs have the same agenda, and it's to drive people away from who they truly are, away from our family unit, away from us sitting around the table with our kids and asking them how they've done in school today, because they won't be there. They're going to be looking at their mobile phones, looking at trash, or in the bedroom doing trash. No, we can't really go on with that way of living. The kids know nothing about how to survive, sew or do anything like we really need to survive in this place if the electric goes down. Or the lorries don't arrive in the corner shop for 3 days. The place will be carnage. People do not know how to cope, okay? They are fed children. They go off to McDonald's. Everything is presented to me. The whole place is a septic tank, okay? Everything that is on offer is not good for us, okay? The water is not even that good. I'm lucky, I'm in Cardiff. We have fluoride-free water, thankfully. But, you know, everything has got an agenda to it. The programming surely has on the telly, and it's to make people a certain way, a certain person away from there's so many aspects to it, my friends. They're taking us away from our true personage, who we are, our sovereignty. One
of the things you said earlier that I thought was quite interesting and indicative, as you said that the global plan is to keep the whole world in fear.
Yes.
And yet the people who I've spoken to in the past who have seen through that plan seem to have a much more faithful view of the world. You know, the water's poisonous, the food poisonous, everything on television is trying to control our behaviour. That seems to be a much more fearful position than the one that the rest of society takes. So it seems like if the plan is to keep everyone in fear and only waking up to it do you come through that, do you get out of that fear, it seems like whoever's in control has failed, because the only people who seem to be in particular fear are the ones who've seen through the plan, apparently.
That's very few. That's not many that's awake. 90% are swallowing their bull.
But they're not in fear. The 90% who are swallowing aren't scared of things.
No. Well, in my experience, people are talking about worried about World War III and other things. Now, there's only a small section on the internet that are actually awake to all of these dialectics at play. Now, what you were talking about there, I think there's more intrinsic than just control. I think there's something bigger going on. I really do. Now, for me, this is how I think. Now, I think that I'm on a flat plane. I think that I'm on a creation. I'm a creationist. Now, that makes a difference because it makes you know that there's something there. You've never been alone and you're being watched. And with that, it makes you not want to do any wrong again, or tell lies again, or treat anybody, or even have bad thoughts of people again. And just that move alone, which I find is not too many people are doing outside the flat earth, it makes a profound difference to your life. I can't even put it into words, the profound difference. So the heliocentric belief of being this small speck in an infinite ocean gives you the thought or the rise that you're meaningless. And what's the point? It does lead to in some people, It really does lead to nihilistic thinking. It really does.
Okay. But there's a flip side to that, though, isn't there, as well? Because I think the flip side of that is if there isn't a grand plan, and if there isn't a creator directing us, and there isn't anybody watching us, and we would otherwise be meaningless. The flip side of that is nobody is telling us what our meaning is, and we're free to design our own meaning, and we're free to be good to each other without thinking the reason I'm good is because I'm worried I'm going to get told off or punished by an altogether.
The creator as such, the way I see this place is I think it's a proving ground, a test ground. It seems to be lessons from day one till we die, lessons of learning how to be compassionate, how to treat one another. The environment we live in and the buildings and everything else seem to melt away when it comes down to people. People and animals, plants together, the realness of this place, which has been completely trashed by, but basically fantasy. Most people are living in a fantasy world, and they don't want to escape that fantasy world. And I believe, I don't really know exactly, but I believe there's an element of what I just said, that they maybe think, hang on, if this place is a creation, and God is actually here, then maybe all them crappy things I've been doing all my life, maybe I got to atone for them. Damn right.
But I think you can atone for things without having to have a creator. But I think the fantasy thing, the point you brought about fantasy is quite interesting, because it reminds me, and I might be again bastardizing this, but I believe there was an old proverb, possibly a Buddhist proverb, about a monk who fell asleep by the side of a lake and dreamt he was a butterfly, and from that day on he never knew for the rest of his life whether he was a monk dreaming of being a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming of being a monk. The sense of being waking up out of the fantasy into reality. It's very hard to know whether you were in the fantasy or you're currently in the fantasy.
Well, this is a beautiful
does that ever worry you across your mind as you wake up out of the delusion that you say everyone else is in? Does it ever make you think maybe it's the other way around and I'm the one who's
many times years ago, Michael. But the thing is, I've done so many experimentations now over the years. We've had literally international sun tracking events where it should have gone viral. We killed the globe over and over again. It bugged me ceaselessly. But over the years, we've done so much experiments that have proved to my consciousness and my soul, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this place is not a spinning ball. Now, I don't state to know what it is. I don't state to know what the model is. But you haven't got a model. Yours is not real. And neither is ours. Ours doesn't work either, if the truth be known. But what I do feel is this place is enclosed. I feel it's like a very, very large room. Okay? I do feel this, but I do feel that there's more. I do feel that there's more outside. I feel this is some sort of, we're treated like cattle. We can't go where we want, Michael. You may think you can. You can. You've got a passport, but you can't really go where you want. You're kept on direct, straight flight routes. You can't go and divert where you want and go where you want. Everything is controlled. Destinations are controlled, and the map is 100% controlled. There is more going on, Michael, than you could possibly imagine. And the reason I know is because how I have been messed with. I mean, I can't even go into details of how I have been messed with because of the things that I've been saying. Now, I should have been...
I mean, I don't want to go into details that you can't say, but what do you mean by messed with?
I get hacked. I got hacked this morning. Somebody tried hacking my Google account 4 o'clock this morning when I was fast asleep. I've had my channel hiked. I've had it turned into a Russian channel with 100,000 subscribers, but my content, I have really weird stuff happening over the years and more deeper stuff. Now, that leaves you thinking, why would this even be happening? I'm in a small, obscure corner, a fringe corner of the internet, the flat earthers. All right, we're getting a voice, we're getting out there. I've made the newspapers and stuff like that. So a voice is getting out there. Everybody is shared of the flat earthers. But have they heard about what we're about, what kind of people we are, and what we bring to the table? We want to do real science. We want to do the scientific method. We really do. And we want to, prove to ourselves as much as anything. Now, I got a guy, he's offering money to me to put a balloon up. Now, my son, I got a son here with me, Michael. He's a 28-year-old next month. He's like you. He's a really intelligent chap. But he says, until it's proved to me, I don't know. Okay, I can see what you're saying, Matt. They do look really iffy, and it could easily be CGI, which they already admit, NASA admit that these are composite images. They actually tell you. There's a guy called
Mm-hmm.
Simmons. Look it up on YouTube. He says we have to make them. We can't get them there. This stuff is composite CGI
Yeah.
images that people are believing is a reality. Okay. And no two are the same. No two Earth shots or blue marble shots are the same. The first in 1969 resembles nothing of the early 70 ones, and then they take a 42-year gap. There's apparently stuff up there. You think that one of them could turn their camera around and take a look. Actually, you think one of these astronauts would take their cell phone up and give us a look, real time on a Google Hangout. Now, wouldn't that be cool? It's never going to happen, Michael. Never going to happen. We know exactly how this thing is working. Every aspect has been scrutinized, pulled apart, and now it's obvious. They know it's obvious to us, and they do it all the more. They leave the mistakes in. It's like, you gotta be joking. You're not doing that. You hold your head in. But you know why they're doing it. To me, I feel like it's being drip fed out. I feel that maybe it's there's two, I can't see them, the controllers, losing control, telling everyone is flat and everything's going to be okay. You're not really going to have a really bad enslaved life, slaving for the 1%. You're going to have a good crack of this life when you come out. You're going to be sovereign. You're going to be independent. You're going to do exactly what you want to do and not what we want you to do. Now, wouldn't that?
So, just by when you say be sovereign, are you referring to sovereign citizen, freedom of the land ideas there?
Yeah, that would be a sweet thing. That would be ideally what I would want for all. Really, I would like for all peoples to be self-governing, self-duchy in small communities, looking after one another. There would be no need for crime. There would be no need for all of these social problems that are introduced by, as far as I'm concerned, government dialectics, such as drugs ravaging our streets, with the crack and heroin and the rest. Now that is them working against us to kill them off. They're just deliberate.
Even that I think is a really interesting area, because I absolutely agree with you that one of the problems behind epidemics of drugs is government policy. But I would argue that government policy isn't to get people onto drugs. The government policy is to promote inequality, which leads people to such lack of opportunity in their lives that they feel that drugs is all they have.
See how they're using doublespeak. This is doublespeak. They're playing a dialectic. Can you see through that one? They create it all. The drugs are moved by them. Why do you think the wars are to protect the poppies? It's for the pharmaceutical industry and the opiate products and the rest. Everything arrives through them. Drug dealers on the big scale are not permitted to go through without their say. So this is how it really works, Michael. It's them. To kill people on the streets. They don't want them around. It kills them off. They end them in hospital. They get rid of them in no time. No, by mouth. This is how this works. It's introduced. The people are victims. They're taking this stuff introduced by them. It works against them. It destroys communities. It destroys families. I've seen it happen, Michael. It's an absolute disaster in areas that are ravaged by drugs. Introduced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree. I don't disagree that areas that are ravaged by drugs are a disaster. I disagree with the way that they are introduced. And I guess that we should probably sort of bring this to a close soon. But I guess it comes to one of the broader points, maybe, I think, is that it seems like you're absolutely identifying a lot of problems with society, and it seems like what you want from society is a much more positive and sharing and compassionate place. But it seems like the barrier to that happening, in your view of the world, is an organisation that is determined to stop it happening.
Sure.
And I wonder if that
is bang on. They won't let you have independence or sovereignty.
But I'm saying, I wonder if that's weirdly a more comforting view of the world than the mainstream view of the world, which is we should be in a more compassionate place. We should be in a better place where there isn't such inequality. And the thing that's stopping us is that the world is actually really complicated and things have knock-on effects, and nobody is able to grasp control or nobody's in control. It feels like the latter, which is probably the more mainstream view, is the less comforting version of reality. Than there is some big evil entity out there that's trying to stop us from being good, and as long as we can get rid of that evil entity, everything will be fine. Do you understand what I mean there?
Yeah, I do. But it's not as simple as that, Michael. Like you say, you can't put it down to it's down to the people. at the end of the day, people live in different paradigms, different structures of society. Some people are poor, some people are rich, right? But most people in Britain know the score, I would think. Okay. Now, for my mind, right, everything works against you from the go. It works against you. Okay, they even sell when you go in to get your basically your registration, when your mother goes in and registers you, that's when it actually starts. You're even sold off on the stock exchange. It's nothing about your reality. People actually know this going on. The odds are stacked against you. So the way I see it, right, is yes, we need to F them off for sure, because they will work against you. They will shorten your life as well. They will introduce other social paradigms, like you were supposed to act a certain way when you're middle-aged, birthdays, you're 50, candle, programming. It's predictively programming you into the grave is what it's doing. If you separate from that and not even take note of their time construct, which is set there just to enslave us anyway, then yeah, it would be sweet if we could move in. It is simplistic, I think, Michael, more simplistic than you think, really. We need to be more compassionate, look after one another, because times are hard and they're going to get tougher. Okay, the control is tighter. Wait till 5G arrives on the horizon. There won't be much freedom out there. Our freedoms are definitely diminishing, and there are not many left. Time is very, very limited. Really, Mike.
Well, it's funny you say time is limited, because that was probably what I was going to come to now, is I think we've probably run out of time for this show. But I think if listeners are interested in finding out a bit more about you and some of the things that you're researching, where can they go, man?
Yeah, Flat Earth British, YouTube. Yeah, you can find me there. Or martinliedtke7@gmail.com for any information. I'd be happy to help. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for your time, Martin. I've enjoyed this, and yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Michael. You're really nice. Thank you. So cool.
Brilliant, and we'll end that there. Thanks so much, Martin. Yeah, that was a fun conversation. I think my listeners enjoy it. I don't have trolls as listeners. I think the style of the show attracts people who want to hear a reasonable discussion from people who disagree, and I'll be interested to see what they make of this.
Loads of things to think about, loads of points. Like I say, it's a multi-spectrum subject, Michael.
It's one of the biggest subjects I know. It's fascinating for that reason. Yeah,
and, I noticed you're into like the raw veganism thing and everything else. Now, this is a thing that's really big in the flat earth community. I don't practice it myself, but a lot of the aspects of what I'm reading on your channel, it was like reading without the flat earth channel. It really was. It's all the same focus. So yeah, pretty tuned in, very clued up, Michael. You are very
all right, Grant. Well, thanks so much. The show, I've already got the latest episode is going to be going out already, so it's probably not going to go out for maybe a month or two, depending on how I want to put it together. The last one was a flat earth one. I don't want to get too many together, so it's nice and varied. But I'll let you know once it goes up, and you can see it from there.
All right, awesome.
All right, spot on. Cheers, Martin. Take care now.
Cheers, brother. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So what do you reckon, people? Is that all right? Give it a go. That was all right.